welcome to the Learning Pro Life. My name's Cath Ellis, and again we're here for another episode today, and we're just going to have a general conversation, just very light-hearted. If anyone tunes in, if no one tunes in, that's all right as well. I'll just talk about things that I'm interested in. Today I thought I'd talk a little bit about learning strategies, because there was a little conversation that we had yesterday with a few people online, and it seemed like some people were, interested in maybe learning a little bit more. I'd be interested to see what are your processes for doing a learning strategy with a client. So if you are tuning in, which I know we have got people tuning in right now, let me know in the comments. Let me know, do you do a learning strategy? What is your process? So if you have a quote from a client, is it just jumping in to build? Or is it doing a little bit of work to kind of dot some I's and cross some T's and get something documented so your client knows that you understand the brief? So there's a few reasons that I do a learning strategy. I make sure that the client really has confidence that I understand my own brief. I understand their brief, pardon me. And I'm also kind of giving them a very high overview of what the plan of action is. How you doing, Tom? Usual suspect. What time is it there? I should know this, but I presume it's quite late. I'd love to know as well from you, Tom. Do you do a learning strategy? Is that something that you do? And what is your process when you're kind of working with clients? I'm forgetting where you're working right now. Hi, Jennifer. How are you? Lovely to see you joining in. Learning strategies, I find, don't take me very long. They take me maybe a couple of hours to put together. And I'm going to show you pretty much an example of a learning strategy so you can see what I do. It does vary, obviously, for each client because it's obviously unique. But there's some things that I make sure that I cover in a learning strategy. At a very high level, I cover my... I'm just reading Tom's message here. Let's have a look. He says, it's gone 11 o'clock here. For me, it depends on the client. I always like to do it, but it has been the year of panic clients for me. That's true. It's true. I even had one come in yesterday. Someone's obviously been in a situation where they haven't or they haven't identified that a module is in Flash, and it in fact is, and we know that Flash has the cutoff and needs the module converted into a HTML5 SCORM file. So in that situation, you could say, is it even worth it doing a learning strategy? A lot of people would say no. Some people would say yes. The term that I use, which is a bit rude, but cover your arse. That's why I like to do a learning strategy. Let me see if I can bring one up so I can just show you an example of a learning strategy that I do. I should have been a little bit more prepared, but of course I'm not. Let's see what I've got here. I'm pretty sure I've got an old dummy one somewhere in my documents. All right, let's have a look. Bear with me. So, learning strategy. Right. So, let me just share this. We can have a look at it. So this is just a dummy one. Let's just have a look. All right, so there's a few things that I cover, right? So I explain what the purpose of the document is. So I explain that outlines the creative instructional approach of the development of the new course. I'm just going to put this in front of me. So it outlines the creative and instructional approach for the development of the new course. I do a very, very high level of what the course is. I say once the learning strategy has been signed off, I require the client to provide any additional resources at the earliest possible opportunity so that a course overview which outlines the topics and structure of the course can be created. Right, so then I talk a little bit about the business need, because I don't want things to change. Some clients, they chop and change things, you know. If you've got it detailed in a document, you know, they're not going to start changing anything. Okay, so I then talk a little bit about what's going on with the business. So a quick analysis of the business need, right? Then I do a project overview. So I talk about what the purpose of the course is, okay? Then I talk about the proposed solution. So at a very high level, I talk a little bit about who my target audience is, you know, who in the business is going to be doing it, what the learning objectives are. I talk about the different approach I'm going to take. You know, is it storytelling, the language and tone? So that normally stays very similar for me because I don't really do very technical training. A lot of people who come to me are wanting quite general e-learning. So, you know, a lot of the time I'll make a statement like, to ensure that an optimal learning, engagement and comprehension happens, the course will employ conversational English, first person plural pronouns for the business, and second person pronouns for the learner. So, for example, we want to help you stay safe. Okay, we've got interactions, so I'll talk a little bit about what kind of interactions they'll expect, and also assessments. So will there be a formative assessment throughout, or will there be formative assessments and a summative assessment at the end, which I generally don't do much of, but I want to define that because, again, I don't want a client coming to me saying, oh, we think we need to have a quiz in there at the end. Through my kickoff, I will have already identified this stuff, and I want to make sure it's defined in that learning strategy. So then the next biggest part is visual design. And again, I'm just going to talk about a very high level approach of what I'm planning to do. So, you know, if you think about some of the projects that you've done before, you might talk about, I'm going to use the company's branding. I'm going to use certain elements that they've used in external design, or I'm going to source design. You know, I've created different stuff over the years, and, you know, some people want really unique things like a watercolor, you know, effect on the course. So this is where you'll define it in the visual design. And again, it's just helping you, you know, lock this in so changes aren't made later. I know that we've still got people tuning in, but you're all very quiet. So let me know what your thoughts are on this. I shouldn't really be talking this much and let you guys talk, but let me just continue very quickly. So then I do assumptions. Okay, so this is outline the project factors assumed to be true, but which impact the course development. So here I'll go. So I will use the Australian kind of standard style guide with regards to formatting the content, unless one has been provided by the business. Because again, I don't want a client coming to me saying, oh, we've got a style guide and this hasn't been written to a style guide. So again, I identify it right here. I also say that subject matter experts will be available as required by me to assist with the development and the adaptation of the course. At storyboard stage, course content provided by the business will be edited and proofread by myself for clarity, consistency, and style. So again, I'm letting them know that if they write something, I might just make sure that it's all in the right tense. The amount of complexity of source content provided will be sufficient for the agreed course duration and complexity of the course instructional design treatment outlined in this document. Okay, so if they just give me a little bit, I'm telling them you need to give me what's going to be appropriate for the course. And the online course will complement any existing future face-to-face training. Okay, constraints. So then I put some conditions or circumstances that may affect the course development, right? So I've got learners will be required to have access to the internet and must be able to review the content on either a tablet, laptop, or desktop. Additionally, audio will require some form of speakers or headphones for learners to hear the audio. And then I say file size has a direct impact on course loading time and may be a technological obstacle for users with a lower, slower connection. So this will need to be considered throughout course development. So then I put in inclusions and exclusions, right? So I go inclusions, mobile compatibility, if there's audio narration, liberal use of custom interactive activities, advanced custom navigation, and then I normally put a defined percentage on multimedia interactivity, which means that if I've got 50, 60, 75% multimedia interactivity, the rest of it is going to be fairly static text. And then I've got exclusions. And here, you can put in 3D animation, summative assessment, or anything else. I then put in, guys, minimum system requirements. So here, if I've got a story, if I'm doing a course built in Articulate Storyline, they've got a great page that they define all this stuff. But basically, I put a link through to the Articulate page, and I've got kind of Windows, so Internet Explorer 11, Microsoft Edge, latest version, Google Chrome, latest version, Firefox, latest version, blah, blah, blah. So I just cover what are the oldest browsers that this stuff is applicable to. And again, if you're using Adapt or if you're using all of these sources, the providers a lot of the time have this information available for you. I think it's really important because you can get absolutely pinged last minute by a client who's like, oh, but I'm using it on, Internet Explorer 9. So, what are you going to do if you've taken on a client? So I think you've really got to define some of this stuff. So then I go hardware, tablet or desktop. So again, if you're building an Articulate Storyline, I always say to a client, it will work on mobile, but I don't recommend it, so I'm defining it in this document, right? Other important requirements. Now, this is a no-brainer, but geez, you're going to need to cover your butt. Internet connection, audio speakers, headphones if you've got audio, right? And then the last thing that I put in here is stakeholders, project management, And I basically just put all the contacts in there. So it's a fairly small document. Doesn't need to be anything too fancy. And I'll quickly just share with you. I've been playing around a little bit in Notion and thinking about how I can get a client to actually, sign off some stuff in Notion. So I'll just show you an example of what this is looking like in Notion. So if you can see, I've got a table of contents here, purpose of the document, business need, project overview. I've got target audience, learning objectives. I've got my storytelling, language and tone, visual design, assumptions, constraints. So it's just a fairly standard document. Now, thank you very much, Emma. She's like, this is so helpful, Cath. I was actually talking to Emma yesterday, and we were talking a little bit about things like, getting pinged last minute with a client on accessibility or some of these things. I think having a learning strategy template ready to go, that with any new client, you just need to change a few things. This can be a major thing that will cover your ass, right? And mine over the years, guys, has changed. I refine it. I'll go, oh, I got pinged on this, or someone asked me this question. I was probably a bit lucky. I'm going to add it to my to my learning strategy. And that was an old learning strategy. So it just keeps being refined each time. So I know we've got people tuned in. You guys are very quiet. And you know what I'm like. If you keep me going, I'll just keep blethering on. What do you think? Is this something that you guys could see would be helpful in your process? Nick says, do you try from the beginning to match learning objectives with the business need? Regarding the assessment, do you follow Kirkpatrick's evaluation model? Assessments, you mean evaluations? Or do you mean assessments? Nick, just let me know what you mean by that. So learning objectives, sometimes I get it from the client, to be honest. The client will normally do a workshop with me. So, during COVID time, it's likely to be done via Zoom, and we'll work through what they're trying to achieve. Sometimes I sit and I do the learning objectives. So, a lot of clients will do things like give me a policy. A lot of content hasn't been designed before, so they're giving me an actual policy, procedure, manual, and I'm building content directly from that. And it's really just through collaboration that I'll start putting together learning objectives and really helping them identify what are the big ticket items that they need to show their staff have competency, they understand. Jennifer says, thank you, Jennifer. It's because what you're saying is gold. Jennifer, what about you? Do you do any kind of learning strategies? And do you know what? This is not any kind of, I'm not being funny or picky. I'm sure that some people, okay, Nick. So good evaluation. I'll talk to you about this in a minute. With regards to the learning strategy, if you don't do it, it's not the end of the world, right? I'm just saying that it helps me stay on track. Now, pardon me, my phone is going absolutely mental. I'm just going to turn this onto Do Not Disturb. Do not disturb. Go away. Yeah, so there's a lot of people who don't do learning strategies, right? Don't worry about it if you don't. I just feel like it helps me stay on track. So when and again, I had a great conversation with Emma as well about proposals and things and how much we put in proposals. And, she was asking, do I need to have, this in it or that in it? And I said, well, what because I've been quite transparent with Emma. I've shown her a lot of my stuff, and I basically said, doesn't need to be full of legal mumbo jumbo as long as you've kind of covered these main areas. You should be good. But the learning strategy, I feel, is like that next level of detail that you can define. Okay, we've talked about my terms and conditions, but now let's talk about what exactly is in the course and what approach you've hired me and what I've signed the contract based on. And now we can go into it. Because I think there's nothing worse than a client who then is trying to go, oh, well, I was thinking about this and I was thinking about that, and you guys will understand. Jennifer said, I've worked through a number of those items with the clients and then document it either in what I call a design document, and some of it is repeated in my contract. Exactly, right? So you could call it a design document, a learning strategy, very similar thing. I know not everyone does it, so what do you mean you need to do better? So what things are you missing out of yours, Jennifer? And is there anything that I didn't have in mind? I mean, this is what this is about, right? I'd love for us to be able to share with one another what we're doing, what we and if you don't want to say what you're missing out, but is there something that I've missed out? Because I think this is a great learning opportunity for us to get new ideas from one another, right? Yeah, absolutely, Jennifer, there is room for improvement. Now, Nick, you mentioned before about evaluation, and you said, do you try from the beginning to match learning objectives with the business need? And do you follow Kirkpatrick's evaluation model? Look, with evaluations, I do mine in type form. And again, I'll maybe do a session specifically on evaluations as well. So we can talk about it and share what we're doing, but I use type form for mine. Generally, at the end of a course, I'm doing somewhat of a happy sheet. So, I'm identifying, let's see if I can bring one up. And I can tell you what questions I'm actually asking. Tom's saying, I found a solid design spec. Learning strategy is the best protection from scope creep. Also a great way to highlight future possibilities. Absolutely. I couldn't agree more with that. So let's see what I put in the last one that I did. So here's the kind of thing that I asked in my last evaluation, Nick. I asked for their name. So I basically thanked them for taking the time to complete the evaluation. Asked them for their name. Did you access the resources within the site? Could you let us know if there are any specific reasons for not accessing the resources if they didn't? Were the resources useful? Did you think the format of the course was an effective way to present the information? What did they think of the visual aspect of the site? Was the user experience, look and feel of the site appropriate for the content? How did the user experience of the site? If they didn't like it, what were the thoughts of the user experience? Have the scenarios help them think about the subject matter? Overall, how satisfied were they with the learning experience? Is there any other feedback to share? And that's it. So it's pretty much a happy sheet, but it gives um, the client something to work with. And I don't know about you guys, but do you find that your clients do a lot of evaluations? Because I find that I have to pretty much push it onto people, and I the kind of language that I use is, if you can get great data from your course, and I try to think that my courses are quite good. So if they got this data and they've got that validation that their staff enjoyed it and they feel they got something from it, it's going to be so much easier for that SME or the stakeholder to go to their boss and say, we need another module on this topic. Here was the data from the evaluation from the last course. It was very positive. Can we do this again? Because I think there's nothing worse than not having any data validating the course. So we're not measuring it maybe the way that would be a lot better. Measuring it, doing different levels of Kirkpatrick. But I think within an organization, that's their responsibility to then go in and do interviews and things like that. Unless you're being hired, Nick, to maybe do that in the beginning of the process for the next, or it could be a step after the course has been done. You're being asked to go and do these level 3s and etc. So Emma says, I see accessibility tripping people up often. It's much easier to outline this at a very early stage, including getting the client to advise if they have an internal accessibility tester team. Absolutely, Emma. It's so important. Yep. I mean, and this is part of your content curation as well. Making sure that you are asking about things like, do you have a style guide? Not only for the visual design, but also in the way that content has to be formatted. Do they use certain terms? So in the disability sector, for example, and I'm pretty sure I've got a style guide here. That I can show you. My computer's being very slow today, which is very annoying. Wait for that to load up. There's certain terms that they use, like you don't use the word client, you use the word participant. So some clients, I use the word client for my clients, will actually have style guides for this kind of stuff, like a tone of voice. And if you haven't seen something like this before, this is a style guide that I did with Coability. So it's talking about basically writing styles, preferred words, sentence construction, how we use bullet points, all this kind of stuff, inquiry, all these grammar things that trip us up, So when I obviously created a style guide, a design system for Coability, which is a business that I own with my wife. It's a disability business, and these were some of the things that I put in place. And you can see here accessibility. I've obviously got this in place to kind of help staff out and understand what needs to be our very lowest kind of benchmark. So again, Yeah, Jennifer, absolutely. So Jennifer says some of that information may be provided in branding guidelines. So again, yeah, we've got lots of different names of these documents. I think this can trip us up. So, um, it could trip us up really easily. And I think sometimes we also need to do a bit of work for clients. So if, for example, um, if someone's got a website out there that's got a search functionality, you might want to just do a little search if they have actually got anything on their website for accessibility. Sometimes when I get a new client, I'll go and I'll dig quite deep on their website. I'll look and see, have they got any kind of accessibility widgets or things like that? Or so while we're talking about accessibility, Emma, you know, um, and I'll see kind of what they've got there so that I can have conversations with clients about these things. Um, and I've got a good idea what their brand is and different things like that. So look, again, I'm going to keep this quite short, guys. I think that like I said, I'm trying to do this every day. I feel a little bit like, and again, I was having this conversation with Emma yesterday. I feel a little bit like this is a great opportunity for us to just chat about different topics. And even if we've just picked up on one little idea, then we're just helping each other out. We're uh, we're just adding to our skill set. So the conversation isn't ended here on learning strategy. I just thought I'd maybe talk a little bit about it and share what I do. I hope it was useful. Tomorrow, let's just see what we're gonna do. I'm gonna be here at 10 o'clock tomorrow. Um, I might be a bit tipsy because I am watching Joe Biden's inauguration, which I'm incredibly excited about. But I may be a little bit tipsy. So you're just going to have to laugh at me. And so if you're around, tune in. 10 a.m. Australian. I think Tom said it was 11 p.m. in the UK. I'm not sure what time it is in the US, but I don't think it's too late. Anyway, thanks very much for tuning in, guys, and I'll see you tomorrow. Take it easy. Oh, here you go. Hang on, one more thing from Emma. Would love to hear about prototyping visual design strategy. Okay, we can definitely do that. Cool. All right, we'll maybe do that. And I'd love to see kind of what you guys are doing as well. Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you, guys, everyone, for tuning in. And see you tomorrow. Cool, we'll do prototyping. Bye.